Yo, what's going on, guys? It's J-Mass, and I'm back again with another dope New England adventure. Guys, the last 2 days have been absolutely crazy. Not only is it my birthday today, and I've spent a quarter of a century here on this earth, but yesterday we officially hit 2,000 subscribers on the J-Mass YouTube channel. So, crazy sequence of events. It's my birthday today, and we hit 2,000 subscribers on the J-Mass channel. And I figured, what better way to celebrate both of those milestones than to come to Manchester, New Hampshire. That's right, we are in Manchester, New Hampshire, the largest city in the state of New Hampshire. And I got a pretty interesting abandoned site to check out today. This is going to be a relatively short video, but this is a really cool spot. So as you can see right behind me, we got a pretty small brick building. It's 1 story with a basement. And this is actually the former Manchester B&M Switch Tower. Now, it opened up in 1944, serving as a switch tower for the Manchester and Lawrence branch of the Boston and Maine Railroad. And to this day, the B&M Railroad still does own this building. So when I say abandoned, I more mean in a sense of activity. It's no longer a functioning switch tower. It is still owned by the B&M Railroad, so we're not going to be going inside, but it's abandoned in the sense that it's no longer active or practicing. Now, that's the switch tower right here, and back here is the Manchester and Lawrence branch of the B&M Railroad. Now, at one point, this was a massive railroad yard, a lot bigger than what you're seeing right now. It actually looks like a lot of the tracks have since been removed, but there still are railroad tracks, and I believe this is still an active portion of the B&M Railroad. But yeah, this is the former Manchester B&M Switch Tower, operating the Manchester and Lawrence branch. It closed down in 1974 after operations actually moved to Billerica, Massachusetts. And fun fact, we've actually been to that site on this channel. That was Iron Horse Park in Billerica, Massachusetts. We actually been there before. So operations moved there, and in 1974, the switch tower officially closed. And ever since then, it's basically just been a little storage building. They use it for storage, but as I mentioned, we won't be getting inside. But I did just want to show you guys around this pretty cool historic switch tower. As always, guys, if you love urban exploration, checking out abandoned sites and exploring New England, I'm always doing that on this channel, so feel free to subscribe. Or you can follow me on Instagram at JMassOfficial. That's at JMassOfficial. But we're going to get started and check out this historic Manchester B&M Switch Tower that once operated between 1944 and 1974. Let's get started. And by the way, thank you for 2,000 subscribers. Much appreciated. All right, guys, let's get started and explore the historic abandoned Manchester B&M Switch Tower here in Manchester, New Hampshire. Now, one thing I just want to briefly state, when I first got here, there was no snow. The moment I started filming, started snowing. So you're going to see little specks of snowflakes coming down from the sky. That was completely unplanned. It just came out of the blue, but hopefully it doesn't get any worse. So anyways, yeah, the Manchester B&M Switch Tower. As I did mention, it is still owned by the B&M Corporation today, but it's not in use, at least in any active sense. It's more of a storage building now. I think they just keep random equipment and stuff inside, so we're not going to be able to get inside, but I did just want to walk around. But as a result, this is probably going to be a relatively short video. It's still really cool. The first thing you'll notice about the switch tower, it is heavily tagged in graffiti. Lots of local graffiti all over the facade of this building. It's crazy. That's the first thing I noticed. But yeah, this is the Manchester B&M Switch Tower. First opened up in 1944, operating the Manchester and Lawrence branch of the B&M Railroad. And again, you can see remnants of the railroad right here. Now, at one point, this was a massive railroad yard. Tons of train lines everywhere that went all the way up into New Hampshire, also back into Massachusetts. But yeah, this is the former train yard right here. Of course, there are still railroad tracks and train lines here, just not to the extent of what it once was in the mid-20th century. But there's also been a lot of development here ever since. Of course, you got Delta Dental Stadium over there, housing, you got a Hilton Garden Inn. So not what it used to look like in the mid-1900s, but during that time, this switch tower operated and was probably the most important structure in this area, making sure all of the trains, you know, went on the right tracks, go where they need to go. Then I got one of these items. I really don't know the name of this, but every time I explore an abandoned railroad yard or see abandoned railroad tracks, I always see these. I actually thought these were the switches themselves. Maybe they are, but I know a lot of train enthusiasts watch my videos, so if you know, please educate me in the comments. I always assumed those were railroad switches, but I'm not actually sure. But this is another view of the Manchester B&M Switch Tower right here. Check this out. Again, very heavily tagged in graffiti. And you got a chimney right there, which is kind of cool. So I don't know if there was like a fireplace or something in there, but... And then this is the front entrance right here of the Manchester B&M Switch Tower. This is where you would go in. As you can see, it's completely boarded up right now. There's no way to get inside, and I don't really want to anyways, just because it is still owned. But this is the Manchester B&M Switch Tower from the front. Kind of cool. One thing I just noticed right here, this actually looks to be the remnants of an abandoned railroad track right here. If you look down there, you can see that the railroad lines themselves are like completely slanted and out of whack. I definitely don't think trains use this specific line right here anymore. This definitely looks completely abandoned and out of use, but I don't know, kind of cool to see. Just tells the story of the past. And then you have the switch tower right in the middle. So I think the active line is right over there, but at one point this railroad yard was huge, extended this whole swath of land, and you had the switch tower right in the middle, operating all of those trains and railroad lines. That's crazy to think about. I also got some more stuff over here. This just looks like a power supply. You also see these on railroads a lot, these little fuel boxes. But yeah, pretty cool. It is a really small structure, admittedly, and it would be cool to get inside, but I don't know. It's also just cool to look out from the exterior and just kind of imagine, you know, what this thing was like during its heyday. I'm sure it was honestly a very hectic and busy place to be. Because, I mean, keep in mind, in the mid-20th century, trains were like still the dominant mode of transportation in the US. And it's not to say trains aren't in use anymore. They certainly are, but in the mid-20th century, absolutely. So this was probably one of the most important structures in Manchester, New Hampshire for that very reason. Let's walk down here a bit. One thing I will say, it is very messy and dirty over here. A lot of random scraps and debris and litter, which I'm not a fan of litter. I mean, no one is, so I don't really like that. But, and this is the back right here, out to the yard itself. Now, as I mentioned, the Manchester B&M Railroad, or the Switch Tower specifically, officially closed down in 1974. When it closed in 1974, the Switch Tower's responsibilities were moved over to Billerica, Massachusetts, which is where they remain to this day. And I believe that's actually at Iron Horse Park, again, an abandoned spot we visited. Now, Iron Horse Park is obviously still in operation, but we visited an abandoned building on the property. But yeah, pretty cool. Now, a couple more interesting facts about the Switch Tower. The Union Switch and Signal Company actually installed a control machine in this tower that was known as a Manchester-type control machine, which was the very first of its kind, located in this very switch tower. And at the time, the switch tower was actually known as the MA Tower. Now, today we've been referring to it as the Manchester B&M Switch Tower. That's what it's known as today. But during its operation, it was known as MA Tower. But very cool to see. I'm just going to do one more quick walk around. We can see the exterior. And then I think that's really about it. Unfortunately, there's, as I said, not too much to see. It is a pretty small location. It's kind of still cool to, you know, get a nice look at, see what's going on here. And this is the front, yet again, completely boarded up. But at one point, you could go inside and that's where the workers would be. Really cool to see. Hey, thank you guys for joining me on this cold and snowy day here in the city of Manchester, New Hampshire, checking out the abandoned Manchester B&M Switch Tower. Really cool stuff to see. This is a place I've been aware of for quite some time now. It's a really interesting abandoned structure. Well, abandoned in the sense that it's no longer in use. It is a storage facility right now, but it's no longer in use as a switch tower. Now, this thing operated between 1944 and 1974, servicing the Manchester and Lawrence branch of the B&M Railroad. Ever since 1974, it's completely been out of commission, and now it's just a former structure sitting here in the middle of a once bustling train railroad yard. Now, there are still trains that use the line today, but again, nowhere near to what it was like in the mid-1900s when this thing was active. But still really cool to see in person. I know this was a pretty short video, and I know we couldn't get inside, but I still really love seeing stuff like this. I love history. I love abandoned remnants. I find stuff like this fascinating. And I'm glad I got to join you guys, not only on my birthday, but right after we hit 2,000 subscribers. And again, thank you for that. That's crazy. Less than 2 years on YouTube, and we already hit 2,000. Pretty dope. But as always, guys, if you love urban exploration, checking out abandoned sites and exploring New England, I'm always doing that on this channel. So feel free to subscribe, or you can follow me on Instagram at JMassOfficial. That's at JMassOfficial. But I've been JMass as always. This has been the Manchester B&M Switch Tower here in the city of Manchester, New Hampshire. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.